algebra, I'm going to cover 11.3, and I'm only going to cover the problems that you're going to see on your homework. So 11.3 is on charting a budget, and there are three different types of charts in this section. The first is called a pie chart, which I'm sure you've seen before. The second is called a line graph. And you've probably seen the last, which is a bar graph. And so most of your problems include the pie chart or bar graph, but you will see the line graph in your book. So number one, it wants us to identify the approximate percentages allocated for each of the categories in the pie chart. So I know that this pie represents 100%, right? The whole pie equals 100%. So if you'll notice, household is half the pie. So half the pie would be 50%. Now education represents half of a half. So education is 50% divided by 2, right? Because it's half of this half. So that gives me 25%. Savings and transportations are half of what education is. So savings and transportation look equal. And it looks like 25% divided by 2. So each of these equals 12.5. So my final, I have household at 50, education at 25, savings at 12.5, and transportation at 12.5. Moving on, and this is what you'll see in your homework. And I'll add a couple parts to it. So here is a pie chart for Winnie's monthly budget, and it's an allocation of the $4,000 that she makes. It asks us to construct a bar graph, but I'm going to use this to, I'm going to kind of change so it matches your homework. How much for each category? So let's start with household, or actually I'm going to start with mortgage. And it says it's 40%, so 0.40 times 4,000. And that gives me 1,600. Then I'm going to do household. That is 35%. You can hardly read it. So 0.35 times 4,000. And that gives me 1,400. And then auto is 10%, so 0.10 times 4,000, that equals 400. Savings is also 10%, so it's going to give us the same as auto. And then last is miscellaneous, and that can include anything. 0.05, that simply should be half of 10%, so 200. Okay, part B. If her income, if her income increases by 1,500, what is her total income? Okay, so 1,500 plus 4,000, sorry, there should be a dollar sign there, equals 5,500. So that's her new total income. So C, how much is now allocated to savings? Well, it's still 10%, but now it's 10% of her new income, which is 5,500. So 10% of that is $550. So she's now saving more money because she's making more money. Next, I'm going to skip 3 because you don't have to do it. Number 4. Number 4 is a hard problem, but it is on your homework. So I'm going to use letters for each of these. So here we go. Vinny's financial budget is as follows. The percent budgeted, remember this is talking about percent. So something I know about percent is the total is 100%, but this as a decimal is 1.00. So we're going to remember that as we look at this. So the amount budgeted for his, so I have retirement, savings, checking, and stock. So I'm going to use R for retirement. I'm going to use S for savings. I'm going to use C for checking. And I already used an S for savings, so I'm going to use I for investments. So I know that all of these categories, if I add them together, must equal 100%. However, I know I can't write 100%. I have to make this as a decimal. So 100% as a decimal is 1.00. So I know all of these together. Then it gives me the following. The percentage budgeted for his retirement account is 3 times the percentage for his savings. So I know that, well, I'll write it here, R equals 3 times our savings. So that's in this first, 3 times the percentage for his savings. The next, the percentage budgeted for his savings is 1/4 of his checking. So I now know that savings equals 1/4 times checking. The percentage budgeted for his stock investment is 2/3 of his retirement. So investments equals 2/3 of his retirement. Okay, and they would like to know what is the percentage for checking. So that's one thing I'm looking for. And if $1,200 is budgeted for the entire category, how much is in each account? Whew! All right, so first, I need to rewrite this so that everything, since they're wanting checking, put everything in terms of C. Okay, so I'm going to start here. If I wanted to get, this is already in terms of C. So I need to get I and R in terms of C. And that's going to be pretty easy, because I'm going to use substitution. I know that S equals 1/4 C. So I'm going to plug that in here. So R equals 3 times 1/4 C. So R is now 3/4 C. So notice I now have 2 equations in terms of C. I now have to do that here. Now, that is also going to be easy because now that I know what R is, I can plug that in here, and then I will have I in terms of C. So I equals 2/3 times R, which is 3/4 C. So I'm plugging that into here. And if it's easier, I could have used a different color. And then I'll simplify that. So I equals, this would be 6/12, so 1/2 C. So I now have these 3 statements. And so now I'm going to plug these 3 into here. So I'm going to substitute R, right? So for R, I have 3/4 C, because I'm substituting it into this equation. So R plus, I'm going to plug in what's S, is 1/4 C. This is already C. Plus, I know now, sorry, this should be an I, which is 1/2. C equals 1. Now, I'm going to combine these, right? Because this is 3/4 plus 1/4 plus 4/4 plus 1/2 would be 2/4. So that would give me 1, 2, 2.5. So I get 2.5C equals 1. Divide both sides by 2.5. And I get that C equals 0.4. So I know that C equals, if I convert that to a percent, is 40%. If C is 40%, I know that I is half of C. So I must be 20%. R is 3/4 of C. So what is 3 divided by 4 times 40? 30. So R equals 30%. And then last I would have S. S is 1/4 of C. So what is 1 divided by 4 times 40%? So savings is 10%. And these have to add up to be 100%. So there is the first. Now there's the percentage for checking and everybody else. Now if $1,200 is budgeted, how much goes into each account? So 40% of 1,200 should be $480. 20% of 1,200 would be half that, so $240. 30% of 1,200 would be $360. And 10% of 1,200, would be $120. So checking is $480. Investments is $240. Retirement is $360. And savings is $120. So that is the second part of my answer. And I know that's a lot, but it is in your homework. So next one, you have one like this. So this is now a bar graph. So this asks, what is the total annual amount budgeted for utilities? So for part A, I have to add up every month. So January is $800 plus February, that's at $700 plus March, that's at $600 plus April and May are both at $400, so I'm going to do 400 times 2. June is another one at $600 plus $800 plus $900 plus $600 plus $700, and both of these are $700, so times 2, and then last plus $800. So when I add all of these up, I get a total of $8,000. So that is the annual amount budgeted for utilities. Okay. What percent of the total yearly amount was budgeted for the months of June through September? Okay, well, June is $600 plus July, and these months are hot, so they're usually the most expensive. August, $9 plus September is another $600. So I'm going to say that there are 2 of these. So I'm going to add that up. And I get $2,900. I'm just going to make sure that's $1,200 plus $1,700. And then I'm going to divide that by the annual. And I get 0.3625, so 36%. C, the homeowners replaced their furnace with a more energy efficient one. They were told they could decrease their utility budget by the upcoming month by 12% from the previous January. How much will they budget? So the previous January was $800, and they're saying I could save, so minus, what is 20% of $800? So 800 minus 0.2 times 800, I get that their new amount should only be $640. Okay. Moving on. Kind of skipping around here for the parts that you'll actually cover. All right, so this looks at the amount that was spent versus the amount that was budgeted. So this is the actual amount, and the dark is the budgeted. So in some months, she spent less than her budget. In fact, it looks like that for every month, she spent less than she budgeted for. So this talks about the following year's amount reflect a 5% increase over the COLA. Remember, COLA is cost of living adjustment. What was the cost of living adjustment that Ida used to get the budgeted amounts? So first, hold on. I noticed that for the June, the actual amount was $1,200 and the budgeted was $1,320. So I did $1,320 minus $1,200 equals $120. So they're saying that she took $1,200 plus 0.5% of $1,200 plus the COLA times $1,200. Okay, so I'm actually going to have to continue this down here. So I get, on the left, I get 1,200 plus 60 plus 1,200. X equals 1,320. And if I subtract these, I get 1,200. X equals 60. And then I divide, I got X equals 0.05 or 5%. So she budgeted 5% for COLA. Determine the budgeted amounts for January for year 2. So the budgeted, remember budgeted is black. So her budgeted amount, if I wanted to figure it out, it would be $1,300 plus she budgeted 10% more. She did a 5% increase over the COLA. So she did 5 plus 5 would be 10%. So she budgeted $1,430. And so look, it's above 13, it's above 14, but to get the exact amount, I found the 10%. The August actual amount was the exact amount Ida had budgeted for. The actual amount reflected an 8% increase over the previous year. So in August, there's year 1. This is what she's budgeting for year 2, and she's saying it was an exact amount that she budgeted for. So what was the previous year? In August, the actual amount for August was $1,500. And $1,500 equals X plus 0.8% of X. So 1,500 equal, there's a 1 here, so 1 plus 0.08. If I divide, I get that the previous year was $1,389. And that completes this lesson.